Let me go ahead and set this up really quick. And there are some new features to the YouTube live settings, which might be pretty good for some people who actually watch this later on. Okay, and so today we're going to be talking about two main categories. The first thing is Hangouts chat, and also the second one is ChromeOS running Linux VMs or Linux virtual machines. And so I think everything is good now. And so the new feature that they will, it looks like all the YouTube Live is going to have is the ability for you, whenever you do watch the replays of these live videos, you'll be able to see the chat sessions as well. And I know some people really like that, to actually see the people who are interacting during the time of the chat. And I think that's a cool feature. So this is my first time trying it, obviously, and so it is a setting that you as a content creator can turn off. But I really like the interaction from the people who actually join the live discussions, which great, which there's already some people on there. Good morning, Villain Millennium, or VM for short. It's so funny because your VM is actually in the title. And good morning, Lance, as always. Thank you so much for joining. And VM is saying Hangouts. Elio, does anyone even uses that? And Lance is saying I still use Hangouts from time to time. And let's get into this, because this is something that I think a lot of people who are working through the internet or collaborate, this is something that will be very important. And for people who have used Hangouts before for various things, because Hangouts has so many different components, okay? So the news is that Hangouts chat, it has come out of beta. And the difference with this is it's going to be a competitor to Slack, okay? And if you are a geek, you know, you've probably definitely heard of Slack. But Slack is now, I think it's really become more mainstream, as I think it is the most popular collaborative tool. Okay, so it's not just chat. Okay, when I first started using this, and I gotta thank my brother, because my brother who's on our Geek Bros talk show, he actually has been using Slack for a while now. And when we started doing our Geek Bros talk episodes, he was like, "Why don't you use Slack?" And I never even heard of it. And so once I started using it, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I really enjoy using Slack. We use this for a lot of our teams at work, and at the same time, it's gotten me out of using other things, you know, to do collaborative stuff, you know. I mean, it's all integrated and it has a lot of features. And so Google, by releasing this Hangouts chat, will leverage the power that Google already has with all their bazillions of different services, and then bring it into a form that is familiar for people who are using things like Slack. And obviously Slack is not the only collaborative tool around. There's so many of them available. I just think that Slack is the most popular, but it's also, I really feel it's really easy to use, in my opinion. Okay, and so, hey, good morning, Robert Lopez. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. And Robert is saying greetings and salutations, Dr. Rob. Thank you so much, Rob. You know what's funny, Rob? Greetings and salutations. If I remember correctly, that same line is from Joe Collins Linux. I think he says that on every one of his videos. And so I don't know if you ever watch his channel. It's awesome. If you love Linux stuff, go check out Easy Linux with Joe Collins. It's an awesome channel. Okay, so the whole reason why Google is doing this is for obvious reasons. Okay, first and foremost, Slack is there, right? And so Slack has already proven that this is a very popular tool to be used in a way that it's just beyond just like the people using it to chat and stuff, right? I mean, a lot of businesses use this, okay? And not only that, but more and more people who work online now, there is a huge market for collaborative type chats, okay? And whenever I think about chat, because I was there right when the internet started, or right when it became popular in the 90s. And so what I remember chat was AOL chat, ICQ, Instant Messenger. That's what I remember as chat. And as a matter of fact, when I was younger, that's the first online dating I ever experienced, was through this whole messaging chat stuff, okay? So it's funny. So it's really come a long way since then. And now when we think about chat, it's not just messaging, right? it's video, it's collaboration like this. It's also you sharing really important documents and files. It's a one-stop shop. And so by Google getting into this, they would tap into this market, which they have been doing for a while now. If you didn't know, Google offers basically a suite of products for businesses. It's called G Suite. Okay, and so G Suite is basically the same applications that you're using now, like Gmail, Google Drive, Hangouts, right, Calendar, but it's really built for businesses, okay, or governments or institutions, basically for more commercial uses, okay. And this is a territory that is extremely lucrative, okay, because a lot of times I think when people think about technology, they think about it from the consumer end, which there's definitely money in, but honestly, the bulk of all the money that these companies make, these large tech companies, is businesses and governments and institutions. That's where the real money is. And that's why Microsoft was really scared of companies like Google coming into their space. Because whenever they offered the G Suite package, it was basically eliminating or getting into Microsoft's territory of owning that market, which is basically their Microsoft Office packages, their Microsoft Office suite, their operating system, and all the many services that surround it. Okay, so this is a huge thing for Google. And the difference with Google bringing this out through their services program, as I just mentioned earlier, is Google has a vast amount of services. And if they offer this and it integrates with G Suite, which is the whole point of it, well, that is another added benefit that they could sell to their prospective customers. And so this is huge. Not only does it take the place of or trying to get into the territory of Slack on a very high level, but the whole deeper level is it's going to really get people into the G Suite ecosystem. Okay, and so not only will it knock off a competitor like Slack, but it will also keep competitors like Microsoft at bay as well, because Microsoft has their own team collaboration. It's called Microsoft Team. And so let me see what else it says. VM is saying, damn, I'm famous, Kappa. Robert Lopez, yes, he does. Joe is awesome, yes. VM is saying, is it just me or Firefox is becoming trash alongside being faster? Yeah, I don't know, VM. Maybe I'll get into that discussion later. But basically, that's the whole point of Google having this Hangout chat. And then it made me think about something else, right? It made me think about AI chat or artificial intelligence chat. And you're probably getting used to me talking about artificial intelligence every single episode because, as I predicted, or my thought was months ago, artificial intelligence and the whole area of data, primarily the data science, collecting data in a way that is meaningful along with artificial intelligence, that is the next wave. That is where we're heading. Not only from a technology standpoint, but also the world as a whole. And so that's why you'll probably hear me talk about artificial intelligence a lot more, because it's becoming more and more mainstream, okay? And so the whole idea of a chat AI, or what they will primarily call it chatbots, is they will have artificial intelligence take care of the chats, okay? Like, you've probably seen this before. You go to a website, there is a chat box, right? And your time is maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning. Even if they could hire workers abroad at their daytime, it doesn't make sense. It's not as cost effective. So they'll use a lot of these chat box, these artificial intelligence chats. And as a matter of fact, G Suite itself, if you go to their main website where they talk about Hangouts chat and G Suite, they even talk about right here, they talk about smarter chat with bots. That's one of their selling points. So make conversations more efficient by interacting directly with deeply integrated Google bots and third-party apps. Okay, now, although that might sound kind of creepy, okay, we actually use artificial intelligent bots every single day. And it's not just those chat bots that you see on websites or on your phone. Think about your Google Assistant. That uses chat boxes. Think about Amazon Alexa or Amazon Echo or Alexa's behind Echo. That uses chat boxes. Think about Siri or Cortana. All of those are a form of artificial chats, chat boxes. That's what they are. And so, not only will Hangouts chat incorporate this in here, but it gets into the whole artificial intelligence things once again, because all of these things use extreme amounts of data collected from you and from all the interactions to produce these very, I would say, artificial but very human-like chat responses, okay? And if you look even further, companies like Amazon offer a service called Amazon Lex, which will allow you to actually create your own chat boxes for your business or for personal use. If you type in Amazon Lex, you see this. It's part of their AWS or Amazon Web Services. So you could build different chats programmatically through their service. And there's a lot of big companies in here already using this. And obviously it's Amazon, so you have companies like KBB.com, if you're familiar with them, Liberty Mutual Insurance, NASA, okay, so American Heart Association. There are some very big companies who are actually using Amazon Lex, you know, and so there's so many companies that uses chat boxes. And Robert is saying, I guess, like a chat moderator. Yeah, I think it's way deeper, in my opinion, Robert, because let's say, for example, we are used to this now, okay? We call customer service, at least here in the United States. I'm pretty sure this is the same all around the world. And they already have automatic robots, okay, that would take care of your service calls, okay? And they call these like phone trees, okay? Besides the technology underneath. And so what it does is whenever you call in and the message say choose this, the phone trees will actually know where to direct your phone calls. So it does make it way more efficient. And then the AI underneath it, or a lot of it's basic, but some of it's really complex, it could really answer a lot of your questions. And so how does this help a company or an individual or a business or a government institution? Well, it saves a lot of costs. That's first and foremost. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people lost their jobs, you know, with this whole transition. And this happened many, many years ago, but now it's becoming more sophisticated, right? Now we are talking to our phones or our computers through these artificial chats, you know. And so, but it all started, in my opinion, through the phone system, okay? And so back then, there was a lot of people who had customer service jobs and operators, you know, back then. You know, you would actually call and talk to an operator, and now it's completely different, okay? And I think it's all started with the phone messaging stuff, the phone calls, okay? And then it transitioned over to the whole world of chats. And so nowadays, I think most of us are used to not talking to people, okay? But now the AI is getting so good. I mean, we are talking to our phones and computers every day using these assistants, you know, these chat boxes, you know, even though we don't realize that they are, okay? And after a while, with this natural language processing, this deep learning, it's going to be pretty challenging in the future for you to really know if you're talking to a human or to an artificial intelligence. And I know this has been done so much in sci-fi films, but it's true. I mean, if you think about now, you probably talk to your phone a lot. I mean, a lot of people do. They use these services, like I said, like Google Assistant and Siri, Amazon Alexa. They use it all the time. And as it gets better and better, it's going to be like a sci-fi movie. You go into your home, you talk to your AI on your phone, and then when you get home, you talk to your, you talk to your home, which is all wired with artificial intelligence, and you basically have conversations with machines all day. And then they'll have holograms as well. They already have that in Japan as well. They're like artificial intelligent girlfriends, I would guess. And it's kind of weird. Like if you were to talk about this, I would say about 10 years ago, people would really think that you've been watching way too many sci-fi movies. But look at where we're at today. I mean, if you really look at your day, how much time you spend interacting with people, and then how much time you spend interacting with technology, more and more, you're interacting more with technology. And with stuff like this artificial intelligence chat, it really gets kind of insane, okay? Especially with the whole deep learning, the conversational natural language technologies. Robert Lopez said, I could see this application being used with patients that have Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, Robert, I'm glad you pointed that out, Robert, because you know, a lot of times when we talk about artificial intelligence, and especially the data that's being collected to provide really usable information to this artificial intelligence, because it needs it, okay? So that means it's collecting so much of our data. A lot of times when people talk about this, the very first thing automatically comes up, especially on the media, is privacy. Privacy, privacy, privacy. But yet, you know, there's also good points to it as well. And a lot of these news media outlets that are also saying privacy, 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 they're the ones who are collecting most of your data anyway. because they're getting a lot of interaction, they're getting a lot of feedback, right? And they're collecting all this data so then they could provide better marketing and better news and messages to you so that you could click or watch more of their news in the future. So that's kind of funny how that works. But what Robert pointed out here is something that I don't think a lot of people think about, at least in general, is all the really wonderful applications that you could use these types of technologies for. And that is a great thing, Robert, where you're talking about Alzheimer's disease, because when my grandma, she passed away a few years back, you know, a lot of it happens with pretty much everyone, right? I mean, your brain at a certain point, like the rest of your body, it starts deteriorating, okay? And so she was getting dementia, okay? So that's not exactly Alzheimer's, but she would not remember a lot of things. And so, you know, your brain, it needs to be trained as well. It's a muscle, you know, pretty much. It's the most powerful thing that you have. But unless it gets interaction to get all those neurons firing and stuff, you're going to lose it. Okay, and so I think that's a great point, Robert. By having something like this, you can help people with those type of diseases, or maybe for people who have, maybe they have anxiety. Okay, some people have that. You know, they're not very comfortable, or maybe they really do have a medical issue where talking to physical people really damages them, you know, it hurts them. Or maybe you could have children who actually have speech problems, communication problems. And so I could easily see where right here, artificial intelligence with these AI chat boxes, they will be very helpful, okay? And I'm pretty sure Google and all these other companies, they definitely have that as part of their, you know, their whole purpose. And at the same time, it would be, you know, it wouldn't be wise for them not to offer that, okay? Because you got to remember, as I said earlier, the majority of these companies' money is made in commercial field. So you could see how all their artificial intelligence, the deep learning, could be used in so many areas. Medical being probably one of the biggest ones, okay? Robert is saying some people would argue that after a while, these AIs will manipulate our thoughts and actions. Yeah, Robert, and a lot of that is already going on. I mean, and this has happened way before AI. That's why I mentioned the media so much, because they really direct a lot of people's thoughts and ideas. You know, I mean, way back then, you know, when they have newspapers, even before that, just people talking from village to village. I mean, it does shape the way your mind thinks. And also, you got to remember, humans, we're very tribal in nature, okay? And so even if you try to be very individualistic, genetically, you're engineered to be in groups and tribes. And so what that means is there's a lot of groupthink, okay? So that's why, I wouldn't say this for everyone, but the majority of people, they all talk about the same things, you know? And with the whole proliferation of the internet, with the same type of information, primarily from these big companies behind it, right? And even small companies, just doesn't matter. It really shapes the conversation, which basically leads to shaping your thoughts. And so with the whole AI stuff, yeah, it's going to be even deeper, because now you don't really need people. The AI could learn itself and then provide you the type of news, you know, the type of attention that you want and need, I guess, for a lot of people. And then after a while, you know, you're going to get a lot of your ideas from this artificial intelligence. So that's a really good point there. Hey, good morning, Rajulus. Thanks for joining. And so, yeah, so it's kind of, you know, it's kind of a thing that, like I said, you know, this has existed way before artificial intelligence, way before we had TV. All of this stuff has been around, I think, since humans were able to interact, okay? It's just now that with all these technologies, we're just being constantly bombarded with this type of stuff. And so there is a negative side, but I really tend to, in my opinion, I really look at more of the positives. I really like the positive parts of what technology can bring. Because if you actually look at my channel, I think one of the quotes that I use, if you look at my About page, it's improving lives through technology. And so I really strongly believe that, because, you know, if we didn't have these technologies and the people who created them, we wouldn't have a lot of these services, our healthcare system, our the way we work, the way we live our lives. It would not be possible, okay? So I really try to focus as much as possible on the positives that technology brings. But at the same time, you know, we do have to be aware of, obviously, the negatives as well. But I really think that whenever Roger pointed that out about Alzheimer's disease, it could really help a lot of people. And so that's kind of a long tangent, but the whole Hangouts chat, it really made me think about these artificial intelligent chats, how we are really interacting more with artificial intelligence. And you know, a lot of our conversations, a lot of our phone calls, even our text message, because obviously these companies read your text messages and then use that in their whole deep learning AI. It's going to be so much about the whole conversation, you know, in the future. And I keep thinking about all these sci-fi movies. That's where we're heading. And we're already doing this right now. We talk to machines most of the time. And so, so Robert's saying, I guess when I die, an AI could do my eulogy. Yep. Yep, 100%. Yeah, you're right. It'll do your eulogy, and it'll probably be a virtual funeral in the future. You know, instead of people actually being at your funeral, there'll be a virtual funeral. And then, you know, a lot of sci-fi movies already predicted this. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be possible. They'll just map your whole brain, and they'll put you in an android or something. You know, you could live forever. I'm pretty sure that's where it might head in the future. Probably not be good for everyone, but yeah, you're right. And so, hey, good morning, Countermeasure. Thanks for joining. Rose, good morning, Rose. Thank you for joining. Time to buy Global X Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF bots. Yes, yes. VM is saying a Russian multimillionaire already paid for that. Hey, good morning, Carlos Enrique. Thanks for joining. This is so cool because as far as I know, one of the things that, this is on a different tangent, and I'll get into the next subject. One of the greatest things I love about YouTube and just the internet as a whole, you get people from all around the world. And so far, as far as I know, hey, Viper29, thanks for joining. As far as I know, we have people obviously from the US, but we have people from Canada, we have people from Brazil, we have people from Spain. And so, and a lot of times we also have people from Eastern Europe as well, from the Ukraine, and there's some people from Denmark, and I don't know if there's some people from India as well, but also know from Philippines. So this is awesome, but I think the majority of people, they're from those countries right now, so that's awesome that y'all can join. I know it's not the same time where you're at. Okay, VM is saying he is paying lots of time to develop a copy of the mind and personality himself and paste it into a computer. Yeah, you know, that's really kind of crazy, you know. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that's where it's going to go in the future. But there's going to be arguments on both sides, okay? In one case, there will be arguments for we don't want to lose these great minds, okay? We want to keep them, okay? And like, you know, a lot of these sci-fi movies, they would talk to people who are not alive anymore, but they would still be able to have conversations with artificial intelligence. Just think about things like Star Trek, right? They're in a holodeck. And so they're talking to these holograms, which still has the AI of all these great people or other people in the world. But at the same time, the flip side is you could also have some really crazy dictator or murderer, right? And they copy their AI and they could live forever as well. And so there's that whole ethical balance, and that's really a complex area. And so I'm not sure how I feel about that, okay? And in some cases, maybe people don't want to live forever, okay? If you look at that show Netflix, Altered Carbon, I did do a review on that on my other channel. They talk about that. Well, you know, you could pretty much put this in here, it has all their memories up to that point, and then you keep living forever. They call them stacks, but that's the same concept. You know, you could live forever, but then it's like who decides who lives forever, right? And so that's going to be really, really interesting. Okay, Robert Lopez saying, yes, this is like the UN. Yes, it is like the UN. I don't know if we could run the UN, but I think we have our small UN in a while. Rose is saying Star Trek had an episode. Yes. Yeah, Star Trek, the more I think about all this stuff that we talk about, especially with artificial intelligence and stuff, I keep thinking about Star Trek, because Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, he was really ahead of his time. I mean, really. I mean, if you really think about maybe the sci-fi, beyond the sci-fi aspect, and then really think about the science of Star Trek, man, stuff is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Rose saying, what are little girls made of? Yeah, yeah. So the second part of this particular discussion today is ChromeOS to run Linux VMs or Linux virtual machines. So this gets into a lot of other things, okay? And we have talked about this before, where, you know, Linux is amazing. I mean, we talk about that. We definitely agree on that. But primarily when we talk about it, I think for a lot of us, we're referring to the Linux desktop, right? Because the Linux kernel specifically is what's being used in billions and billions of different devices, different applications all around the world. But the one thing that is not being used heavily is the Linux desktop. And now, with ChromeOS doing this, okay, and this has been available before. People have hacked a Chromebook, okay, and they can use a feature called croutons, okay. Is it crouton? Yeah, so crouton is what people who have Chromebooks who actually want to run a Linux distro or run Linux apps, you can use that. A lot of times people use that so they can run an Ubuntu-based distro, right? And so the only problem with using crouton is the fact that you actually have to, obviously you have to do little techie stuff, okay, so it's not really for newbies, okay, who aren't really technically savvy, but it also means that you have to turn off some of the security features. You have to put it in developer mode, and that can open you up to potential security issues, okay, so that's the whole point of ChromeOS, was that Google would have control basically of your entire operating system, which also means your updates and all the security, okay? So whenever you did this, it really compromised some of the biggest features of Chrome, which is the ChromeOS, which is the actual security features. And so this new thing is called Crostini, okay? So if you actually look at their Chrome developer, there was a recent commit, and one of the commits is this whole thing about having Linux containers, Linux virtual machines. And so why this is important is, this is like something that I've talked about before, and I did have an episode earlier. I'll try to find it. I'll put a card up there if I can find it, where I said operating systems do not matter in the future. And they won't matter because everything's going online completely. Okay, it's no accident that a lot of our work, a lot of our daily lives are online. But it's also no accidents that a lot of the applications, they're moving from our desktops to online, web apps, right? Or completely 100% online services. The only way you can use it is through online. You know, just think about all the various services. Just think about these Google products, right? Pretty much all of it you can use online. Google Docs, Google Sheets, all that stuff. But then if you think about Adobe, they're offering their online services. Microsoft Office, you can use that online, and a lot of our services are already there anyway. And so by having this here, the whole point of it is they want your operating system, and Google, this is what they want, but all the other companies want the same thing. They don't want people to actually have, let me put it another way. They don't want you to have to choose an operating system to put on your computer. Okay, they want your operating system to be anywhere and everywhere. They want you to be in their ecosystem 100% all the time. So that's why something like a ChromeOS is so powerful. And technically, we already are doing that with our browsers. Okay, I mean, there's very few people who do not use the internet unless they're in a country that does not offer that. And if you are using the internet, more than likely, you're going to be using some type of browser. Okay, a lot of people, I would say the majority of people probably spend more time on their browsers on the internet versus using a standalone application on their computer. Okay, I mean, myself included. I spend a lot of my time on our browsers. All my work is done through the internet. And so with ChromeOS doing this, allowing a Linux virtual machine container in there, they basically consolidate a lot of different things, because they also have, like, you could do Wine on a Chromebook as well, so you could run Windows apps, Windows programs, right? And so if Chrome is able to do this, and they're definitely going to do it, you have a one-stop shop. Google will be your entire ecosystem. So you get into your ChromeOS, which is your browser as well, which is also your operating system, technically. And then, well, if you are a Linux user, right, or Windows user, if they have these containers in there, well, now you could run full-blown Linux within your Chrome OS, right? And obviously, there's going to be performance issues, but that's going to be worked out over time, okay? But you can see where I'm going with this. And so if Google and other companies like Microsoft, Apple do things like this, which they are, then you will be entirely in the ecosystem. So even if you are a Linux user, well, hey, now if you can run Linux virtual machines, which have the same performance and it's fluid and there's no difference between the two, why would I install a Linux distro, right? I'll just use ChromeOS, and that's really where their direction is. They want you to be their one-stop shop. Okay, so whether you're Windows users, I don't know if Apple is ever going to be available on anything outside of Apple ecosystem, but right now I'm just thinking Windows and Linux in a virtual machine. If they could have those two things locked in ChromeOS and have it running really well, not only will it basically increase the adoption of ChromeOS, but it will also, in a lot of ways, eliminate their competitor as well. Okay, so Microsoft, that is a big thing. You know, if they could get people to run Microsoft in a virtual machine, then that really takes a big hit on Microsoft itself, you know, with their own operating system. Okay, but for the Linux desktop, you know, it really plays into the whole idea of a lot of these companies, they use a lot of open source tools. Okay, so Linux is a very, very powerful tool, and I have talked about this before. It makes them a lot of money, and so even though Linux, it is open source, it's still controlled by the companies who have the resources, okay, and who also have the influence. And you know, just look at the Linux Foundation. I've mentioned this before. The biggest contributors aren't people like you and me. The biggest contributors are huge companies and huge government institutions. So that's the reality of it. And so they can shape a lot of how people use Linux. I mean, in general, they really can, because they are the primary contributors. Okay, and so so let's go right here. Okay, so VM is saying, tell that to Mr. Kubrick. Okay, Mr. Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Definitely one of my best favorite movies of all time. When we're talking about Stanley Kubrick, yeah, way ahead of his time. Yeah, but I would say VM, like with Gene Roddenberry, because he had this whole Star Trek thing, he got to spend a lot of time with different ideas in science and technology, which is still relevant today. Okay, VM saying, some people say that those genes like him or Tesla came from the future. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. You never know. I mean, if you think about some of the technologies and some of the concepts that we have right now, it's really hard to believe that this came from somebody who is not from the future, okay? And I know it sounds crazy, but think of things like the pyramids, okay? Or Easter Islands, or, you know, some of these structures underneath the ocean, and they were developed thousands of years ago, and it's like it still baffles a lot of scientists today. Okay, so and those are the whole alien conspiracy thing, but it makes you think about that. And so Mr. Kubrick is an interesting read. Yeah, Rose, I haven't read his book yet, or the book about him. He's a very interesting person. A lot of people just know him for 2001: A Space Odyssey, but Stanley Kubrick wasn't just a movie director. You know, he was a lot of different things. He's a very complex person, okay, and very out there as well in some cases. And so Roger Less is saying, my main gaming is on Linux. Yeah, Roger, I think that taps into the whole, now we're kind of going back to different conversations, but if ChromeOS, if the Linux virtual machine, let's say for example, okay, the Linux virtual machine, maybe initially, maybe it allows you to load up a Linux distro yourself within this virtual machine. But maybe in the future, they'll have it all running on Google's servers instead. Okay, and you know, we already do a lot of this right now. If you do a lot of online gaming where you can only play the game online, it's not running on your machine. Okay, so it'll use all these other computers, these very powerful computers, to where you can have a seamless experience. And so we already do this right now anyway. A lot of stuff is running on big, powerful servers. And so if they could provide this service for people who want to use a Linux distro, let's say for example, okay, once this thing is mature, it gets going, you go into ChromeOS, okay? And it's still technically free, right? I don't know if they're going to be able to do this for Windows, okay, because Microsoft owns that. But say, for example, ChromeOS now offers a feature that says Linux desktop or Linux distros. You choose that, and it has all these distros that you can choose, okay? But the thing is, it's not going to be on your Chrome machine, okay? It'll be running on Google servers somewhere, okay? So when you do that, then obviously there is no performance bottleneck. And so that is a great point right there, because now Google is also going to be your gaming computer as well. Okay, other companies are already doing this right now with NVIDIA, right, with their G-Stream servers and so forth. But now Google, they can do this as well. And Steam on Linux as a perfect example, right? So now you are eliminating other competitors as well. And so it's kind of genius how that works, okay? At first, and a lot of companies do this anyway, and it makes sense, okay? You offer something that is valuable to your end user, right? But behind the scenes, it's really meant to take that end user's business away from your competitors. So that's pretty powerful. And so if ChromeOS, Google is able to do this, and I know they will, and able to do it effectively and seamlessly, I can guarantee you the market share of Microsoft OS is going to go down, at least on individual computers, and also in businesses as well. Let's not forget the whole business point. So in businesses, they're going to install ChromeOS instead and run all their other applications and programs that usually run on Windows, Mac, or Linux, all through ChromeOS. You can see the humongous amount of money that could be made there, and also efficiency as well. You know, you have a one-stop shop. You don't have to have your system administrators go to each and every machine, making sure it's on the latest versions, it has all the right applications. No, because it's all controlled through ChromeOS, and then everything else is controlled through these containers and virtual machines. And so, yeah, pretty crazy. So that's a good point. And so if Google does this the way I think they're going to do it, then you will be able to get the best gaming experience possible, because it won't be running on your machine. You know, you don't have to worry about having the fastest GPUs. That's why I refer to the NVIDIA G-Stream service. It'll be at that level. And so, yeah, that'll be interesting, okay? And once again, you know, since it's all online, you don't need to really have storage on your Chrome OS. But the problem is all your personal stuff is going to be online as well. And so I'm not a big fan of Chrome OS, Chromebooks. I'm not, you know. I mean, if you need to hack your computer to put Linux on there, just put Linux on there, you know. Why have a half operating system on there? But anyways, I might be wrong with that, because obviously this future that I'm thinking about with Chrome OS and having all these containers and virtual machines, if they do it right, it'll be very powerful, you know, very powerful. And so let me see, Rose said, now I want to have many competitors, not to only have one company at Google. Linux has become my main operating system. I want more browsers. Yeah, Rose, and you know, I think for the most part, for the foreseeable future, we will still have that option, okay? But I really think, as I mentioned in that video that I referred to earlier, operating systems won't matter in the future, because we won't really know what's underneath, okay? Everything's going to be online. Unfortunately, I think that's really where it's heading, okay? I don't really see any way outside of that. The only thing outside of that is what we have discussed before, where you learn how to create your own distro, okay? And maybe later on, as the whole open AI becomes more popular, there's a community built up there, then maybe we'll have to learn to create our own AI as well. And so for people like ourselves who really want to maintain as much of our freedom and independence as possible, then we have to learn how to develop our own operating systems and our own AI as well. I know that's a lot of work, but I don't really know how else it's going to be avoided, because that's where we're heading. And so, let me see. So Rose says anti-competitive practice would develop and undermine choice. Yeah, that's kind of always been there, Rose. I mean, even before the internet. I mean, you could look at the beginning of time of commerce. That's always been there. You know, there's always going to be competition, and then depending on which side you're on, if you're on the winning side, then you're winning, okay? But if you're on the not winning side, then it's anti-competitive, okay? And so that's never going to go away. Yeah, it's never going to go away, but it's all. I really think that it's going to be, and I have mentioned this many times, what really Scott predicted, it's going to be these mega conglomerate corporations where they'll basically own planets. That's the future. They're going to own planets. And I think Elon Musk, he might be the first person to own a planet. I really think so. And so VM saying, Kubrick actually designed how SpaceX looked like. Yeah, that guy is pretty crazy. Yeah, he's a genius. VM is saying people say that he made the supposed moon landing, and anyone that has a scientific base actually would criticize that video. Yeah, that's so funny, VM. A few years ago, there was this whole conspiracy theory that we never landed on the moon, that it was all done through a production studio. So that's a funny thing. Carlos Enrique saying Google is an evil genius. You know, Carlos, there's a lot of evil geniuses out there. Okay, and it's so funny because you know, as we get more into this whole area of deep learning, AI, data collection, I think for geeks, we will also become smarter as well. Okay, because we are also evil geniuses, because you have to learn so many different things. And the more things that you learn, you can be dangerous. Okay, and I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, but the more right knowledge that you have, the more you're able to adapt and maneuver, and also the more that you are aware of actually what's going on to you, you know, where the majority of people don't know what's going on. And so we are also evil geniuses. And so VM is saying, when your anthem is don't be evil, put your intrude and sell private information all the time for cash. Well, VM, all companies do that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business. Okay, so they have to collect data. They have to figure out ways to make money. So that's why I was talking about artificial intelligence. It needs to collect data. Okay, and you know, once again, whenever I talk about these things, y'all, I really mean to say that to me, I'm really, like, I try to be as logical as possible. I see why they're doing it, and I understand why they're doing it, okay? But I also want to say that you can choose whether or not you agree or disagree. You don't have to agree with all these different governments or businesses' practices. You do not have to agree with them, okay? But for myself, I tend to look at more of the positives that come out of it, okay? Not to say, you know, to be ignorant of all the negative things that's going on, but as I stated earlier, you know, a lot of people's lives have been improved through people who created these ideas, these technologies. They really have improved a lot of people's lives. And so I tend to look at what are they doing that's actually improving people's lives, because at the end of the day, you know, you might think that these companies are evil, that they're doing harm to people, but they're creating millions and billions of jobs. You know, they're providing better health and technology for people who are sick. You know, they are providing a way for people to communicate with other people all around the world, especially if they're in a government that does not allow them to even leave their country in some cases. You know, they're giving people, like, for example, if you're in a country that has a poor infrastructure and they have no money to go to school, well, if they have access to the internet, they could learn a lot of things through the internet, through YouTube. And so those are the things that I think about. And so there's a lot of good that comes out of it if you look at it that way as well. And so, but as I said, you do not have to agree with everything that they do. Okay, for me, I try to take the good parts, and the bad parts I don't use. Okay, and so I look at how you can leverage these technologies that these people who created these businesses created for you to use for whatever purposes that you want. Okay, so in my case, I'd use it for this. You know, it's to educate and to, you know, communicate with other people around the world who are like-minded. And I could not have done this if YouTube wasn't created, if Google wasn't created, right? If LG did not create this phone, if the internet wasn't created and run by a company, if there weren't servers who were created by business people so that you could have these services right now. And so that's the way my head thinks. And so, hey, Shatter, good morning. Thanks for joining. Shatter saying little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and nowadays knowing too much also dangerous. Yeah, Shatter, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard not to, like, know stuff anymore. You know, you can also know the other stuff. You know, that whatever the media or popular news is feeding you, you could also know that as well. But yeah, there's just so much information nowadays. It's kind of hard to filter it all out. So VM saying the best invention during capitalism is making poor workers stupid and obedient. That's always going to be around, VM. You know, so that's not going anywhere. And a lot of times, if you are stupid, or you choose to remain stupid. Okay, and so I put it that way because a lot of times people don't take responsibility for what knowledge that they have. You keep blaming other things, then where's the problem at? The problem is you're not learning anything new. Okay, and that's my opinion. Okay, we have so much availability to knowledge today in most countries, especially, you know, like developing countries. this would not have been possible even 20 years ago. And so, you know, just take that with a grain of salt at the same time as well. There's also bad things as well, but there's so many opportunities for you to learn as an individual that's never been available before. And so if you're still stupid and obedient, well, you can only blame yourself. That's my opinion, you know, with everything that we have available. And so, Google and internet help a lot here. Yes. And I know Carlos in Brazil, specifically Venezuela. Venezuela for a while now, for many years. I don't know if there's anybody from Venezuela, but you're closer to that area. Venezuela is going through a lot of tough times. Basically, the government, the president basically has a dictatorship there, and people can't even get food. You know, it's been happening. First, it started with the whole oil industry. You know, it started from there, but then now people don't have food. Kids, they are being displaced. Like basically, parents have to give up their kids because they can't feed them. That's really the reality of the world. There's really some horrible things that are going on. You know, I mean, for people like myself who live in the United States, it's like living in the future. You know, we live in a completely different world. But when you think about places like Venezuela, those people are suffering. You know, and so you know, there are ways that, you know, unfortunately, not every place is as developed, and they have the government, the stability that people in the U.S. who have, you know, who fortunately have. Okay, so whenever I think about technologies, I think about, once again, how can we leverage that to, you know, to provide more value to people around the world? Because whenever I think that things are bad, and I don't mean this in a negative way, okay, because this is the reality. The world is not all good. And so when I think about places like Venezuela, people are really suffering. And so whenever we're here in the United States and we are, in general, we're complaining that things aren't good here, the mass media is controlling everything, or the politics, or I don't have the new phone, or I'm not making enough money. Well, think about living in Venezuela where you can't even get food, toilet paper, or you have to give up your kids. You know, it really puts things into perspective. Okay, so let me see. Hello, Shatter. I'm here late again. No problem, Shatter. Like installing Vanilla Gen 2. Randy. Hey, Randy Blankenship. Thanks for joining. Trump needs to learn that it is all fake news. LML. Okay, and I don't, you know, I don't try to get too political or stuff like that. But if you think about Trump, okay, it's funny stuff. Okay. Besides what the media tells you, okay, because the media is one thing, okay, and you could agree or disagree. It doesn't matter anyway, to be honest with you. But if you actually read a lot of his books, I have some of his books and stuff, he's not a stupid person. He's a pretty smart guy, okay? And so if you think about what he's done, right, with getting attention, attention is the most valuable resource. Look how much attention Trump gets on the news all around the world. That takes some intelligence. So by the time he gets out of office, he's going to have even more notoriety, and it's going to even add more to his business later on. Okay, so that is really genius what he's doing right now. He's in the news all the time. I would say probably more than any other president that I could think of. And so he's leveraging all these different media outlets, all this technologies, all this social media. And so that is pretty genius, okay? And once again, you don't have to agree with everything he does, but I can guarantee you everybody around the world knows who he is. And so, and they will continue to know who he is way after he leaves. And so, I hope everything is well with you, Shatter. Hello. Okay, let me see. Robert saying knowledge should be free, but it's not. Education spenders are out of control. Yeah, Robert, and I would say traditional academic education is out of control. Okay, and I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think I said it on a previous video. Academic education is built to create employees. Okay, it's created to put people in a system, and it makes sense. Okay, because if I remember reading somewhere, school was built by entrepreneurs a long time ago. Okay, I can't remember exactly where I read this. So let me tell you why school was built. And this is, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something I remember reading, and it makes a lot of sense. So entrepreneurs, a long time ago, we're thinking, how can they have an unlimited resource, unlimited supply of employees? Well, create schools. Because if you think about school, what is it built for? Besides at the beginning when you're young to learn basic education, it's built for you to work in a system. Okay? And so by the time you get out, well, your mindset, everything is focused on one primary way of earning a living and having a life that is acceptable in society, which is get a degree, go get a job, and work there. You know, nowadays you work multiple jobs, but still it's the same. Okay, so to keep you in that system. And so that's why, you know, there's not a lot of entrepreneurs that actually come out of school, you know, that are actually successful, because through whatever, since you were a kid all the way to you are an adult, you were not trained in the whole concept of being an entrepreneur and actually making a living out of entrepreneurship and not only just a job. Okay, and so that's a really powerful thing. And the school system, in my opinion, it's a business. It's a business. There's a lot of people who makes money out of these school systems. And unlike any other business, at least here in the United States, you cannot go bankrupt on your school loans. And school loans, they're actually part of ETFs. They're actually traded in stocks and stuff, the whole academic area. And so there's a lot of stocks and companies making money off of these loans that you're getting out from schools. And so it's not an accident that these schools make a lot of money and the costs are continuing to rise. And unlike businesses, traditional businesses, the school sells you these degrees but with no guarantees that you're going to make money. And you have to pay them back. And so that is a true evil genius to create the whole current academic system that we have. But the great thing is we now have the internet. We now have things like YouTube. You know, you can learn in so many different places. And more now, degrees do not matter because everybody has a degree now. So learn what you need, and you know, that's cool. Okay, so Lance is saying, hi Randy, hi Shelter. Okay, Carlos Enrique says, Venezuela is in chaos now. There's so many refugees here in Brazil. Wow, Carlos, that's, yeah, yeah, it's a horrible thing. I've never lived in a country like that. I am from a third world country myself. I'm from Laos. So when we left, it was right after the Khmer Rouge and Vietnam War, and so we left at a good time. Okay, but I can't imagine people right now. Where do you go? You know, it's wow. So Brazil probably has a huge influx of people right there. Shatsu said, don't make understatement like Steve, LOL, because Gen 2 is tailored district for people's needs. Okay, nowadays he's claiming deep NOS. Okay, Robert is saying, they say that in Cuba people are oppressed, but they get free education and healthcare. That's so funny, Robert. And VM, since you live in Spain, because in the United States and in Canada, well, I don't know about Canada, but in the United States, the way it works is we are used to paying for higher education. Okay, but in certain countries, like when I was in Spain, free education, it's not really free, but higher education is provided to people. Okay, so yeah, that's a little different, but also they get taxed a lot higher as well, and so there's got to be a cost somewhere. So okay, so Rose, I will let Power Linux use like Surge, Shatter, Agent to install vanilla Gentoo. I don't really use DeepNOS. Okay, VM Deepin is clean of spyware. I hear Kubuntu, Bionic. Okay, Shatter saying, Olin, agree with you, but knowledge is now paid service by academic way for how to income money, and being sheeple doing their job on the corporate side. Yeah. Education is almost free until universities. Yeah, VM. Yeah, when I was in Madrid, that's what I was told. They said the universities that are free, but only higher education is free, but only up to a certain point and only in certain fields. And I think in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, I think y'all have like universal health care. Maybe I'm wrong on that. And so yeah, I think in Germany as well. But anyway, yeah, it's a really touchy subject, but I really feel that at least now with all the technology that we have, especially with the internet, academic education is not the only way that you can actually learn. Now, do I feel that academic education or higher education is worth it? Well, I really think it depends. Okay, if you are going to become a doctor, a lawyer, a engineer, then or a scientist, then I really think you have to go to school. You know, you have to have that academic education. But I think if you just want to make money, then you don't need an academic education. Okay, if anything, you're probably going to, at least in the United States, you're probably going to be broke, you're going to be in a lot of debt, and you're probably going to have to work in a crappy job for the rest of your life to pay off the debt. You know, and so in my opinion, if you just want to make money, you want to make a living, and you don't necessarily want to be a scientist, a doctor, a lawyer, any of those things that require an academic education, then I just say learn, and which is what I do. I learn from the internet a lot, and then apply those skills for people and companies and businesses that need it. You know, I mean, you don't really need a degree anymore. Okay, and so let me see. Okay, VM, yes, we do for citizens and non-citizens. Okay, cool. Rose is saying, yes, we have universal healthcare. Yeah. And I will say this, you know, because I think in the U.S., many people just really focus just on the U.S. If you actually look at how other countries are doing things, it's pretty amazing to me. So, like, a lot of times, like, you know, people think about, well, we should have universal healthcare. Well, look at the countries that already have it, okay? In some cases, the universal healthcare is great, but in some cases, like in Germany, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, you have to wait a long time to get that healthcare, and also there's like different levels of healthcare that you get. Okay, so anyway, that's a complex subject. So in Canada, okay, VM is saying spyware. Okay, Carlos and Enrique say here in Brazil the free healthcare is crap. All education is free here, but high education is hard to get free. Okay, Shatter saying it's Arco Linux Arch merge. Okay, you're right indeed. VM is saying Spain healthcare medicine has been the best in the world for a long, long time. Cool. Now they're messing it up and turning everything private. So yeah, so it's kind of funny. Whenever we have these conversations, it usually leads to other things. But I think all of this stuff, it is related to technology in a lot of ways. Because a lot of our information, a lot of what we know, and as I think one of the people related earlier, that a lot of how we think is really driven nowadays toward because of technology. Okay, and the great thing is we do have a part in that. And so if you had your own ideas like I do, you could create content and share it with other people. Okay, and that's a really cool thing. And I don't really know how I got off topic because I think it was because ChromeOS taking over potentially all the other operating systems with these containers and Linux virtual machines. There's definitely a positive to that in terms of the simplicity. You have it all in one shop. But the negative, obviously, is the fact that they have more and more control. And so, for me, I'm going to have Linux on my separate machines, okay? But I could easily see where, like for businesses, first and foremost, this would be big. Because ChromeOS, I think they had, like last time I looked, they had like a 3%, a little over a 3% market share. But most of that is in the commercial business space where Microsoft is at and where Apple is at, okay? And so not most of it is in consumers. But I think if Google is able to make this work, then they could get more of the mass consumers, because now you have one-stop shop. And even if you are a really serious gamer, if the VM works as what I think it will, off of really powerful servers, and they're streaming really well, there's very little latency, then that might be your one-stop machine. Okay, and at a relatively low cost, unless you get something like the Google Pixel or something like that. And so VM is what is it saying? Okay, so let me see. All right, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read up. Dude, it's Europe. Carlos Enrique said, nice off topic. And Carlos, I do want to appreciate all of you who are in the live discussion, because I do try to keep on subject and on focus. But whenever we have these different discussions, it's really cool because most of you are from different countries. And so it's really great to get a different perspective, okay, instead of just the United States perspective, okay? Because a lot of people are experiencing a lot of different things around the world. There's way different systems, there's different cultures, and to me, this is awesome. This is one of the most valuable things that I think, if you are interested in becoming a content creator, this is probably one of the most valuable things that you get when you become a content creator. Why? Because it opens up your mind to other things. You know, it opens up your perspective to other things, and not just what the media or the governments are feeding you. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you enjoy, but a lot of times it puts you in a very myopic, limited view. Okay, so having real people in different countries tell you what's really going on and what they're going through, I think that is one of the most valuable things that you get out of being a content creator. And so now let me see, VM is saying things don't get solved with talk but bullets. Yes, VM, bullets and tanks and planes. That doesn't solve anything, but you know, it's a possibility. So Shatter is saying, what's the movie in the background? VM is saying Full Metal Alchemist live version. Yes, and I did do a review of this on my other channel. If you go to Go Movies, you could find that on my main channel. Okay, you could check out my movie reviews there. I'm still putting up movie reviews every week. I just put it on my other channel. Let me tell you, this Full Alchemist live version, it's horrible. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bad movie. Just not a good movie. There's only a few good things that I like about it. Okay, VM is saying, read the manga, watch anime, the original is better. Thank you. Lance gotta go. Thank you, Lance, for joining. Shacha, have a good one. Take care. Thank you, Shacha, for joining. Robert Lopez, Google Hangout, awesome stream. Be blessed, Dr. Rob. Thank you. Bye, Lance. Bye, Shacha. VM is saying BFG stands for B. Yeah, from Doom. Okay, so it seems like it has been an hour, and all the people in the discussion, they are heading out right now, so that's perfect timing. And so first and foremost, I always want to do what I normally do. I want to thank the people who are actually on here. So first, VLN Millennium, or VM, Lance, Robert Lopez, Carlos Henrique, new person, Countermeasure, Rose, as always, Roger Luss, I think he is new to the discussion as well. Viper29, thanks for joining. And I do want to plug two channels. Viper29 and Shatter has a channel as well. Maybe I'll talk more about that in the future. I have talked about Viper29s, but I do want to, like definitely talk about people who have been on here. So Shatter has his own channel as well. Go check it out. Let me see if I miss anybody else. Roger Luss. Carlos Enrique. Okay, I think I've got everybody. Okay. All right. And so if I did miss anybody, my bad, but I think I did. Oh, and Randy Blankenship, thank you for joining. And also for everyone else who is watching this now or later, I do want to thank you because time is our most valuable asset. So I really do appreciate you spending time here with all of us geeks and having these really diverse types of discussions. And so as always, if you did enjoy these videos, you got value out of them, be sure to subscribe. And if you did want to support the channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. And we'll see you on another live episode of Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.